In my place, yeah. No. Oh yeah. Alone me toxic. My God, he toxic. You would never leave me on my own, no. On my own, no. Alone me toxic. My God, he toxic. Anytime I call him, he go answer me. I'm feeling good all the time. Around my waist. I trust in you. I'm feeling good all the time. When I burn my waist. Trust in you. Every day you give me attention. And you tell me make I don't mention. Me, I don't face no altercation. Enemies that won't go station. Every day you give me attention. And you tell me make I don't mention. Me, I don't face no altercation. Enemies that won't go station. Give me a so. It's your goodness, it's show me. Make them no go con the things are gentle. When I pray, it be like royal. In your love. It's your love. If I run a million songs, you'll be enough. Me I go dengue. Why I no go dengue when my daddy hold me, yeah. He hold me, yeah. Oh, me I go dengue. But the way you try me when my daddy hold me, yeah. My daddy hold me, yeah. Every day you give me attention. And you tell me make a donation. And I don't face no altercation. Enemies that won't go station. Every day you give me attention. And you tell me make a donation. Me I don't face no altercation. Enemies that won't go station. So kitty jo. Oh no. Jo kitty jo. No.
Drop the bass, one up the blaze one time. Love the beat one time. Just spin it up one time. Love one time. Drop the bass one time.
Yeah. See as you fine. Be like mommy, what about ya? Don't want to try. But you pick my interest too. Be like I win that too. Right now, I know you know. 'Cause I think I'm falling for you all over again. Sweetie, I'm falling for you all over again. Oh yeah. Baby, I just don't get it. You're my mind all day. I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't think. It's killing me. Yeah, you. Mommy, dama walk with Johnny. Yeah, you. Put your lele lambado. I know, you know. 'Cause I think I'm falling for you all over again. Oh yeah, sweetie, I'm falling for you. Yeah, all over again.
Run up the beat one time. Just spin it up one time. Just drop the bass one time. Drop the bass. One up the bass one time.
Bumi D, mommy.
Black Eagle Entertainment.
Many of them is Snapchat. It's girl songs.
You know, fella, Eddie, when you mumbo,
Snapchat to your back or Snapchat. Many of them is Snapchat. Vibe matching, I just step and drive it. I've been waiting for you on browse it. Texting me online, pray me online. You shower online, no. Say one die, I'm in die, oh. you also say what you man. Miss you also say what you man.
Get up, mami. Bema shodi ni ya bado. Shandi kone na nentu. Oh, titi me, fine boy, this I'm into. Made the money Friday night, Saturday, you go jogging. I was in the X be a president, JJ Rollins.
Until that, who born you? Your mother. Me watch your man go in dada. And I know, go gaga. Me turn it, they me check it, me search it, me vex it, me tax it, touch it, feel it, me feel it, billy.
Yeah. Me miss you also say what you man. Me miss you also say what you man. Text me online, friend me online, me shower online, no. Say one day I'm in die. Do you, tell me wetin I know if you do. Do you, tell me wetin I know if you do. And take me a good process, yeah. Get on you don't know that, In me a good process, yeah. Baby, me a good process, yeah. Snapchat, back on Snapchat. Many other bitch shower Snapchat. 5 notch, I just up and drive it. I've been waiting for you on browser. Text me online, friend me online, get shower online, no. Say one day I'm in dio. Let me see you also say what you man. Let me see you also say what you man.
Hello, Oaf Sauce. Good vibes, and that was Curl Songs collaborating with Medical on their record called Snapchat. Shout out to them. And we're back again. You're listening to Africa on Focus with me, your host, MS.ABA, bringing to you our success stories. What's going on in the African continent, and of course, what's going on in our world. Now, normally, myself and Donnie, we come to you. We ensure that we bring the knowledge, the education, the empowerment of our people, to the show where we talk to many people that have such a good impact within their communities and throughout their work. Today with me, though, it is me and you. We are listening to music, we are vibing and talking really about what's relevant to us. Unfortunately, Donnie is feeling a bit ill, so I said, you know what, I'll just catch up today myself. I'll pick up the show so that we can have a conversation going. I think a conversation is always good. And today we're actually talking about a really, really interesting topic. Would you pay somebody to slap you every time you get off of focus of your plan? So it could be any plan. Maybe you have, set up a plan to stop eating unhealthy food, or you have maybe set a plan to quit smoking. Would you get somebody to slap you every time you touch a cigarette? Or maybe you touch junk food or anything of that? Or what else could it be? Maybe if you haven't worked out and somebody is trying to come in and check you and things like that. Well, we've discovered somebody that is a CEO, and the CEO has paid somebody to slap him every time he goes on Facebook, because Facebook is his, let's say, his sweet sin. We are also going to talk about 10 African currencies with the highest exchange rate. And we're also talking about, some South African students who are selling school Wi-Fi passport for lunch money, which is quite of a serious thing because, of course, selling Wi-Fi for lunch money. I mean, how bad can that, really be? That's quite upsetting to hear. But anyway, we will be talking about that here on Africa on Focus, where we share our success stories. You are listening to High Radio, the voice of the next generation. And if you feel like interacting with us, I see that we are live streaming on Facebook. do give a shout out. Do say hi. Let us know where you're listening from. I would really like to know. I always hear, of people listening from various places. Shout out to Sandra Amanor, who says, love your show. Well, we love you too, Sandra Amanor. And also a shout out to Bad DDM, who also joined through my Insta Live. Yes, I do go on Insta Live on this show. I'm kind of testing the waters, what works, because throughout the weeks when I go live I get a lot of interactions, but maybe it's kind of a cold shoulder, when I'm talking like this behind a microphone and not really catching up with people, but anyway, we will find that out. It's all in the assessment of digital things. Also shout out to Ekwesi Champong, who was such a good supporter of the show, and also among other things that I do. It's almost getting to 8 p.m. Here live in the city of Amsterdam. I must say it is quite of a chilly Saturday. In the evening it turned quite soft, and I'm not turning into weather lady right now, but the weather somehow, it impacts people's mood, it impacts people's behavior in a way, and having this cold season coming up and then also lockdown, it makes people, feel a bit uncomfortable, to say the least. But all right, we'll be talking some more about that. We would really love to know, how is the lockdown from your end? Here in the Netherlands, there is a mini lockdown that we are in. I've explained earlier on what that really means, having a mini lockdown, and we are quite limited. We're back to 1.5 meter rule and those type of things. I mean, if you ask me, it's quite strange that we even got to this freedom, because I think that if it wasn't liberated as much, we wouldn't have to be in this place. But anyway, shout out to Linda Troom, who's saying, haha, miss, thanks. We need to get somebody for DJ Slim. What do you mean? Do you mean a girlfriend? Do we have to find him a lady? Maybe let us know what that is, and how is lockdown in your area. Another thing is that we also are talking about is a 2G measure. Now, when I saw a title of 2G measure, I was like, okay, what is this kind of technical? I know that by now, in terms of telecommunications and network, we have passed 4G. So what's 2G? We label everything, we give a name for everything and all of that. That's really what the setup is. And I'm almost logging off of Instagram, by the way. The Outbreak Management Team, OMT, has urged the Dutch government to impose 2G measures after a partial lockdown. So I announced earlier that, after this mini or semi-lockdown, that is going on, the government is thinking about what they're exactly going to do. So you might want to get prepared for something that could go any direction. That goes for events as well. I mean, I just saw an announcement of a lady who's an artist, Sarah Jane, who also, talked about what it was that a particular concert was canceled, and it was canceled. She couldn't go on. Her heart was broken and everything. So it was really sad. I mean, events can't go on because of all of these nonsense that's really happening and taking place and all of those things. So 2G measures after a partial lockdown could be possible. So while a 3-week partial lockdown is expected to be announced at the press conference, much controversy of surrounding the introduction of 2G. So 2G measures mean that you could obtain a valid QR code with the vaccination certificate or proof of recovery. And unvaccinated people would no longer have access to events or other aspects of public life. And for a lot of people, this is kind of a deja vu or sort of a Armageddon feel. You know what I mean? 666 vibes. It gives them that. While it's not entirely as such, but it does gives people that idea. Unvaccinated people who no longer have access to events or other aspects of public life, even if they have a negative PCR test. So it's very plausible that 2G would lower infection. According to epidemiologist Fritz Roosendaal from the Leiden University Medical Center, it's likely that 2G measures would bring infections down from the past week's spiraling numbers. So basically, what that means is that people who are unvaccinated or unregistered or have that, registry, wouldn't be able to do anything. And he also said that this was lessened the burden on hospitals. It's quite spooky, if you ask me. Similarly, modelers from TU Delft calculated that the introduction of 2G measures would bring down the number of infections at events by 25%. And their model predicts that hospitalization would fall by as much as 94%. So about the study, is that the TU Delft calculation are based on fictitious event taking place when there is a high rate of infections in society, and participants had an average age distribution and 75% of them were vaccinated. So to what extent the 2G measures would lower the number of hospitalization depends partially on people's age. At events with many elderly people present, the effects would be much greater since they have a higher chance of ending up in the hospital. However, this expert says that drawing an age limit for when 2G measures would apply isn't viable. You run the risk of getting into an endless discussion, just like a half-hearted lockdown. So how the exclusion of unvaccinated people works is that 2G measures would exclude unvaccinated people from public life. And Professor of Medical Ethics Mariette van der Hoven from Amsterdam University Medical Center stressed that unvaccinated people are unfairly lumped together as one group. According to her, it's important to pay attention to diversity in society. She also reminds us that among the unvaccinated are also people who cannot be vaccinated for medical reasons. It's taken it too far to exclude them all. There is also an alternative model that is 1G, and the modelers from TU Delft have also studied the potential effects of introducing 1G measures. So this would mean everyone, whether vaccinated, recovered, or unvaccinated, would have to get tested to obtain a QR code. In this scenario, infections would decrease by as much as 74%, much more than with the discussed 2G measures. However, there would be a significant lowering of hospital admissions compared to 2G, which is 74% compared to 94%. So since 1G would prevent from infections, then 2G, the number of hospitals admissions would, however, decrease further in the long run. So that means it's a compulsion that they put on people, you know, in terms of, they're really forcing people, and that's not really what is going to happen and going to be right. I think that, you know, even the idea of 2G freaks Dutch people out. It's just too risky, too dangerous. It will have people come storming down into The Hague and those type of things, and all of that. Let's listen to what all of our listeners are saying, because I would really love to hear it. Shout out to John Royals, who said, "You're looking classic." Thank you. I really appreciate that. And also Linda Troom says, you know, I mean, Slim needs someone to slap him anything he touches, anytime he touches his cigarette. Okay, Slim. That was my main question, because the main question is today is, would you pay somebody to slap you every time you do something that is not according to your plan? So let's say losing weight, stopping cigarettes, stopping smoking. Let's say every time you want to touch it and somebody comes and slap you, would you pay the person? Because it's something that would be good for you. Another thing is also John Royals, who says, "Miss, most of the vaccinated people are the same people in the hospital." And MS.ABA is saying, "Miss, there is no corona or lockdown here in Ghana. Oh, you guys should come back home." I will definitely come back home very, 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 very soon. So that's really the state about 2G and 1G. Currently, there are no known discussions of introducing 1G measures at a governmental level. 2G might soon be a reality. So what do you think about the 2G measures in the Netherlands? Tell us, do share with us in the comments, and really, share with us your thoughts, because we are really interested to know. We also have some other things to talk about what's going on in Africa. On the continent, Burundi begins COVID-19 vaccinations despite hesitancy among its people. Sierra Leone gets first cocoa factory, and young Ghanaians in Europe travel home a lot. and also some findings about why the mobility of us Africans who travel back home really, really matters. And also our hot topics, which we will be talking about in the last 30 minutes, is about CEO who hires a woman to slap him every time he's on Facebook. Would you hire somebody to slap you every time you get off of course, off of track? Let us know in the comments. Also, we are talking about some African currencies with the highest exchange rate, and also South African students who are selling school Wi-Fi passport for lunch money. We are going to see what's up with that. But first things first, let's listen to some music. I think it's some time for some D Black with his record collaborating with Aquabwa, which is called Kiss and Tell. Let's do this.
If you want it, I go bring out. If I bring out, you go fall. Come and try me, you go down. Before you know, then you born. Came back just the other day. I was chilling with my niggas out on holiday. Safari Valley it is. Me and 4 friends just chilling it is. I'm a 3 hot babies. Spot this one thing, please stop, baby. What be your name? I'ma do you know crazy. This how you driving me, please stop, baby. What do you shit? What do you woo? Let me hold your hand and bring you close. What do you shit? What do you woo? Would you bend your knees and touch your toes?
Anywhere you go, girl, I go jolly to follow you. Girl, I'm losing control. Oh, girl, I wanna spend my life with you. And I want you to come over me, oh. Be my wife, oh. Be new, baby, oh. Dirty, my seal. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss until, no, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss until, no, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss until, no, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss until.
I'm your king, that's a promise. Yeah, I'm selfish, I no go share you, then I for near you. Anybody try run for the fear to the boy where you get for pack back. In my rainbow, when the sky's dark, the 4th day, the 4th day, where I know say you be my babe. I don't wanna kiss and tell. But if you wanna, we can tell the whole wide world. Come on.
I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss and tell. No, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss and tell. No, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss and tell. No, no, no. I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss, I don't wanna kiss and tell.
If you want it, I go bring out. If I bring out, you go fall. Come and try me, you go know. Before you know, then you born. If you want it, I go bring out. If I bring out, you go fall. Come and try me, you go know. Before you know, then you born.
Anywhere you go, girl, I go jolly to follow you. And I'm losing control. Oh, girl, I wanna spend my life with you. And I want you to come over me, yeah. Would you be my wife, be new, baby? Good day, enjoyment, minister. From a chain, I'm sure said it is secret. Enjoyment, minister. From a chain, I'm sure said it is secret.
It's ferocious beats.
Balenciaga from the structure. Do them car bush get the duck, yeah. Hey, yeah. Fiesta, forever, party, whenever, when we're together. Yeah, coming from the West Indies, and you know, so we giving them the best indeed. Anywhere we there, we do a flex on street, and the style what we do, no matter red stampede. And I interview nobody question me, and you try never look in my direction. G, new bank job and every just one beat. Oh, coming from the set concrete, yeah. If you know me, I'm having the time of my life. don't you slow me down. Beg you pardon me, I wanna just party, yeah. I wanna just party, yeah. Yeah, Patek for my wrist, yeah. Roots and chalice for the mix. Motherfuck, put some passion in a this. I touch, turn it up just a little bit, yeah. Regular, me full up the Benz and tap it up. What is up? Gas it up, flow like aqueduct. New faffy on the ends and cut it up. Jack still got it up, wrapped and package up, yeah. Coming from the West Indies, and you know, so we giving them the best indeed. Anywhere we there, we do a flex on street. And the style what we do, no matter red stampede. And I interview, no bother question me. And you try, never look in my direction, G. New bank crab and no bridges bandit. Oh, coming from the set concrete, yeah. If you know me, I'm having the time of my life. Don't you slow me down. Beg you pardon me, I wanna just party, yeah. I wanna just party, yeah. We up, yeah, we, yeah. Balance, yeah, we, yeah. Do them club, we, yeah. Fiesta, we, yeah. Party, we, yeah. When we're together, yeah. Coming from the West Indies, and you know, so we giving them the best indeed. Anywhere we there, we do a flex on street. And the style what we do, no matter red stampede. And I interview, no bother question me. And you try, never look in my direction, G. New bank crab and no bridges bandit. Oh, coming from the set concrete, yeah. If you know me, I'm having the time of my life. Don't you slow me down. Beg you pardon me, I wanna just party, yeah. I wanna just tell my manager, I wanna just party, yeah.
I wanna just party.
Wagwan people, pity time my lady Bessie do when you can she found my greet you. Now me GD someone who ya me person will give baby mommy. I need you to thank. But I'm wondering about all the things that happen to those who trust in God. Allow me to prove near me to me, yeah. And yami won't to me to nature. I don't know mama ya crab share. So what me say me looking jay. Time I me feel say baby see me yeah. I don't know mama the magic touch system low. So no one connected to what pay your battery charge. When you say yami you're the quaffo. I know me now me jam the console. And when you be painting I be can't let them out. I will home down. Cause when the guy only give me, then I divide more on this beat. I didn't see no python on this street, cause I don't rely on him completely. Lifeless being, and you're not doing my coming bitch 6 feet. But it took me, after you say nobody go to reach me. Second of his glory. I yet to say Johnson that you can't see me. Truth be, and you're me who no coco, no nipa who the mystery.
I know you, the sea, the boy that I know him,
I am excited about the fact that Nyami Pinjan and Sat, not everything becomes better than normal. Nyami understand that anytime he does that, Obin to miss that demons they try, but they never they come back. Ma Nyami ya family not to nisemu. Obi didn't say come be obi. Sorry so epona se ni ojemu. Maybe I'm a kono Nyami di me bedu. I don't know come shine on the highway. Me di mistake na mano. Na me trust me na me feel irate. Ohunya de ngabekano. Bisa wo say I na each and every second about for recruit to the team. And I say bad to me the PM1. Obi di the chin in the name. Oma ni di we di kwa. Rest assured we din konim. And you on the fellow to me and ni pain to me. He did that before the universe began. Call him the I am, the God who is 3 persons in one, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. You're my homie, you for understand. Obi say the many man what I know go feel overcome. The more you dey get to know him, he dey blow your mind away. Take off what I see, that be why he be in there. I go there, you go talk, show me things, but no matter what you say, he be this God way I go. They follow each and every day. Let him know.
I know him, the sweeter he grows. The more that I know him, the sweeter he
It be this God I go follow each and every day. I like that. I like that. Shout out to T Danso with his record Sweeter It Grows. And before that, we listened to also some good vibes, very good vibes for some other artists that, keep blessing us with some good records. D Black collaborating with Aquabwa with a record called Kiss and Tell. And of course, after that, after that, we listened to Coffee with a record called West Indies. Anyway, welcome back to Africa Unfocused, where we share our success stories. You are listening from High Radio, the voice of the next generation. It is almost about 8:15 p.m. coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam. We just have about 45 minutes before we round up today's show. And today we have a very interesting question that we pose is, would you allow somebody, and I keep rephrasing it different, I know, would you allow somebody to slap you every time you do something that you said that you would not do? And we're asking this question because we discovered a CEO who hires a woman to slap him every time he's on Facebook. Supposedly, Facebook is part of his guilty pleasure. In a bit, we're going to highlight this article because it is super, super interesting. Other of our hot topics today is 10 African currencies with the highest exchange rate against the dollar. We'll be ending it with that one. And also, we will be talking about South African students who are selling school Wi-Fi password for lunch money. But before that, I just want to give a shout out to a few people who are interacting with us on our comment box on Facebook. John Royal, shout out to you. MS.ABA, shout out to you also. Also to Linda and Trum, shout out to you for tuning in with us. Do not forget to share it on your timeline. We really would like to have the conversation going. We would really love to share the conversation with others that can also involve, are you even doing whatever on this sweet Sunday? Make sure that you interact with us right here on High Radio. High Radio is Amsterdam's most dynamic satellite station, and we stream throughout the week online on the internet, of course, through our website. And you can find our shows also on our socials, where we highlight everything African, from African to Africans, and of course, celebrating African culture in its fullest sense. What else is new? We touched on, a mini lockdown taking place here in the Netherlands. People are not too happy about it. People have been storming down the demonstration halls. I mean, right even after in the press conference whereby, the mini lockdown was announced, people were upset. And, they took it to the streets and are protesting. So we are now kind of waiting what's happening after this mini lockdown, because anything could be announced. And that's basically really, really what it is. Well, let's see how that turns out. Here, the 1.5 meter rule has been imposed again. We are pretty much keeping a distance, face masks back on, which should have been on all the time. But hey, MS.ABA is saying, you know what, come down to Ghana. I am definitely going to make that happen. All right. Well, before we reach into our hot topics and really share about, the highlights of today, I would really love to share one take on which has to do with South African students who are selling school Wi-Fi password for lunch money. Now, we all have heard, about struggles that take place when, we need lunch money or we don't have enough about something. But this really goes deep. A desperate need for cheap internet means that there is a buyer's market at the school gates. Can you imagine? For 13-year-old Thabo, lunch is a luxury. So selling his school's Wi-Fi password brings him a few bucks every day to help him buy lunch. Now, Thabo is one of the millions of impoverished children in South Africa who don't have access to the internet at home. And yet his school's internet is supposed to be free for access to students like him. But for Thabo and some of his classmates, free Wi-Fi access also makes for a lucrative small business to help keep hunger at bay. And here's how it works. So for a small fee, Coffee's revealed the school's Wi-Fi passwords to people who live near the school and don't have internet at home or data on their phone. So the going rate is about 10 to 20 rands, which is about 70 cents to $1.4 or less. And on a good day, It can scoop 50 rands, said Tabo, who lives in Dudusa Township, about 35 miles away from Johannesburg, South Africa's largest city. And as Tabo is a minor, the rest of world had consent from his guardian when he was interviewed. And they really had the opportunity. And in this case, restofworld.org was able to gather information from him. So there are schools there, with free Wi-Fi in densely populated areas. And one thing is that not everybody has the ability to reserve an extra money for lunch. So we were quite surprised to discover about this, how somebody that is a student at a school could be like, you know what, you need some internet or you need some data for some WhatsApp. Okay, just pay me 70 cents. Here is the code. And that is good enough for, my lunch. So free Wi-Fi has really become a thing that people look for because they need it so much. So I'd even climb a mountain if I were to find a free Wi-Fi connection, said Bongani Badi, who uses Wi-Fi to stay in touch with his girlfriend in Durban over WhatsApp. So though long unemployed and frustrated like many of South Africa's 3.3 million youths within work, he often wakes up as early as 6 a.m. to walk 2 kilometers to the school. And he's been using the school Wi-Fi for 2 years, not just to send messages to his sweetheart, but also to reach potential employers through email. Now, that's really sad. Potential employers, you have to reach through email. And he sometimes attaches a CV saved on his phone, but he's still unemployed, and some of 50 CV messages later. This is really kind of a need for, how much internet has really, really been necessary. And even if you look at the images, you can see people, beside the road, really tapping into, the school connections. You could even think of what could even the speed be. But even for that, in this world where we are going in, where remote working has become more and more important, people are selling it for that. Would you buy some free Wi-Fi? That is kind of a good question to ask. Would you buy it just so that you can communicate with your friends or with your family? Of course, as a lot of African countries have this issue, it is a lot of, what is government doing and, what are people doing and everything. The government promised free Wi-Fi access years ago, but it is yet to happen. And meanwhile, school Wi-Fi is still the best that people really get. Why are we highlighting this? We are highlighting this really the gap within, what people are really getting in this space, in this place of time where the world is really moving towards digital, and we really need, a good internet connection to sustain our communication. Internet is relatively expensive. Also, like to say in Ghana, what you get for, let's say, an 80 gig, what you pay, to go through a whole period of time for an 80 gig is really expensive, because here you pretty much pay for an unlimited bundle and you pay, a fixed price. So where is all this going to, and will it be able to help our people get to a place whereby they can just freely access internet because it supports their work, because it supports what they do? All of that, it should really be marked and really be seen as important. All right, question of the day follows again. If you would have somebody to slap you every time you make a mistake or you do something that was outside of your plan, maybe if you were quitting to smoke and every time you would grab a cigarette, what would you do? Would you like to have somebody to come and slap you so that you can put your life in order? We will be talking about that in a bit. Let's just first listen to a track. We'll be coming back to talk about some vaccination measures on the continent. Let's listen to some Jaskalis with a record called Flex, and of course we'll be right back to talk some more. All right.
Today we just shayo. It's the J to the K to the I. All of my girl them got the jam and juice. Pretty face, skinny waist, Costco Bay, oh yeah. Pull up in the Benz with the baddest crew. So make way, no delay us today, oh yeah. And we don't need no long thing, yeah. Let me tell you something, yeah. Drinks on me tonight, and if you're acting right, you can join us at our table. Today we just share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow. Today we just share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow. My gang them bad, you no go fit flex like us. No, you no fit flex like us. All my galley them bad, you no go fit do them like us. No, you no fit do like us. No fit do like us. Cause I'm a girl them ballers. Oh, cause I'm a girl them oh, I'm a girl. See my bills I've been paid to a flexing today. You can't tell me nothing. Why would I rely on you? You they talk, you know they do, so you can't tell me nothing. Tell the waiter to bring another bottle. Today we celebrate life, yes we celebrate. Oh, boy, you know that you can't knock the hustle. Even the struggle you must do appreciate. Today we just share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow. Today we just share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow. My gang them bad, you no go fit flex like us. No, you no fit flex like us. All my galley them bad, you no go fit do them like us. No, you no fit do like us. No fit do like us. Cause I'm a girl them ballers. Oh, cause I'm a girl them, oh my girl them. My girl them got the jam and juice. Pretty face, skinny waist, Costco Bay, oh yeah. Pull up in the Benz with the baddest crew. So make way, no delay us today, oh yeah. Pull up with the bad gang. Yeah, tonight we up to something new. Rebuking all the bad things, claiming all the blessings, Share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow. Today we just share you. Leave the worries for tomorrow.
Jules, baby.
Yeah, yo. Ọmọ pupa o, ṣebí wà ló sọ fún mi. Ó yá àgbẹ̀, mo máa lówó. Cause every day I'm hustling. Just love me intentionally. I don't want no temporary. Go down and bust it for me. Yeah. Just love me intentionally. I don't want no temporary. Go down and bust it for me. Yeah. Waiting is up. You know say me I know they talk I give me chop at all. Go na. I no go talk but give me make a chop I give me make a chop yeah. Bossy, my shit, I'm a book, my shit, oh no, nah. Bossy, my shit, I'm a book, my shit, oh nah. I'm a book, she be all over for me, oh yeah, oh my low, cause every day I'm hustling, yeah. Just love me intentionally. I don't want no temporary. Go down and bust it for me, yeah.
just like me intentionally. I don't want no temporary. Go down and bust it for me. Ah, yeah. Yeah. Bossy, 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 my kitty. I'm a king of my kitty. Oh, no, 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 no. Bossy, 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 my kitty. I'm a cook my kitty. Oh, nah.
Ah man, what a fresh song. Jules just does that. Jules just brings fresh songs. And that was actually Jules with his record called Intentionally, collaborating Fireboy, DML. And before that, we listened to Jaskeles, who is a Dutch-based Nigerian artist with a record called Flex. Definitely spin it in the car, every time I just feel like having a good vibe. Anyway, welcome back to Africa Unfocused. We're back. It's almost 8:30. Coming to you live from the city of Amsterdam. And we are talking about a whole lot that is taking place on the continent and right here in our worlds. Man, let's just think about it. So what are you thinking about this vaccination? Are you still getting vaccinated? I think from last year I've been talking about it with Donnie. Are we getting vaccinated? How do we truly feel? And all of those things. And I said I was going to wait, which I did. Eventually, I went for both shots. Also on my Insta Live, I took people with me, to make people understand, how it went for me. And I also engaged with other people who took their first jab, second jab. Some were really not feeling well after they did it. So people kind of had, a diverse range of experience behind it. And one thing is, a lot of people still feel like they're not taking it, which I really, really respect, because, our hope is not into these vaccinations. How are you feeling about it? Have you gotten yours? Are you still getting yours? That's really what I would like to know. And how is all of this, experience of getting the vaccination? Because I would truly love to know. Shout out to everybody who's listening to us wherever you are in the world. We get a great amount of listeners also from Canada. I just want to give a shout out to Canada people, just specifically Canada people. That's really what I do. Of course, also our listeners from the Netherlands. You are listening to High Radio, the voice of the next generation. And so African skepticism and this vaccination thing, it's really something. We Africans aren't really fond, or let's say in the diaspora, fond of new things. Everything is quite suspicious, especially when it comes to, our vaccinations. But Burundi, which is one of the last countries in the world to inoculate its people against COVID-19, received its first batch of vaccines on Thursday after a major about burn by the government. The East African country, whose leaders had previously downplayed the severity of the coronavirus pandemic, took delivery of about 500,000 donated doses of Ghana's Sinopharm vaccine at a ceremony in the economic capital Bujumbura. Vaccinations against COVID-19 begin next week, if all goes well, the health ministry said on Twitter on Wednesday. And Burundi's change of heart leaves the largely closed-off nation of Eritrea as the only African country that has yet to launch vaccination campaigns. And while North Korea insists it has no cases of the disease and has rejected any vaccines. Look at that. Burundi only rarely makes public announcements about COVID infection data. But according to the latest figures reported to the World Health Organization, it has recorded about 19,441 confirmed cases, with 14 deaths. Burundians have mixed feelings about the vaccines. It's good the vaccine is coming because it was a disease that was killing many people. I think it will be a good thing to have this vaccine in our country, said 23-year-old entrepreneur Gracia Iteka. But shoemaker Egide Nsambimana, 32, said the shots were necessary. So in our country, Burundi, this pandemic was not serious. Here we suffer from the flu, and this vaccine is for white people. We don't need it here. Wow. That's really interesting. Agatono Huruwasa, leader of the opposition National Congress for Liberty, called one of the government to intensify an awareness campaign about COVID and said it should ensure enough supplies of the vaccines. So last year, President Evariste Nyadimashie declared the coronavirus Burundi's biggest enemy. It's all of our enemy. Definitely. So the government is introducing a health pass from December 1 with all people traveling inside the country from Bujumbura, the lakeside city hardest hit by the virus, obliged to have a COVID-19 test and carry a certificate. So even the laggards, among African countries are really now doing something about it. Have you taken the vaccine? I would really love to know how that is, going on your end. How are you feeling about it? Do you feel that, at this point in time, you could finally go and get it? Or do you really feel that, you are not getting it at all? You're just simply fine. I would really love to know how things are going with you. Have you taken the vaccination? How are you truly feeling? Well, in Burundi, they have finally have done something about it. All right. On to we're almost actually touching on our hot topic, which talks about the CEO who pays somebody to slap him every time he goes on Facebook. But you know what? First, let's talk about Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone gets first cocoa factory. The first of its kind facility allows the country to process cocoa for the first time, in a boost for local farmers and a win for Africa's manufacturing capacity. Many times here on the show, we have talked about, the farming and how it should be equal for African farmers. We've had people from the likes of Max Kofi, really talking to us about this, about the importance of our farmers. And I'm talking about our cocoa farmers from Ghana, from Ivory Coast, to really have a fair share of truly all of the $billion that are actually extracted from, the cocoa business. Because where the problem really lies is that, Africa or the West African countries, the grand producers such as Ivory Coast and Ghana, they deliver the raw products or the raw materials. Europe brings it in and they process it to the current chocolates and chocolate bars that we see. Sierra Leone opened its first cocoa processing factory in a bid to bring profits from the country's crucial industry home and improve the lives of thousands of local farmers. Because really where the profit really lies was in the processing. And the new factory's machinery, nestled in the eastern Kenema village, jutted to life last week in a ceremony attended by President Julius Maada Bio, and who said it was a giant step for the country and economy. Man, it's a giant step for Africa. So with the capacity to process up to 4,000 tons of cocoa beans per year, around a quarter of the country's annual output, Sierra Leone's cocoa industry joins the ranks of the world's largest cocoa producers. Cote d'Ivoire and Ghana, who have been crushing, roasting, and grinding cocoa beans into unsweetened cocoa liquor or cocoa mass used to manufacture chocolate for years. Cote d'Ivoire, which got its first industrial scale chocolate factory in 2015, today produces 2 million tons of cocoa a year, equivalent to more than 40% of the world's market. The new facility, built by Capital Foods Limited, will export its semi-finished product to major cocoa buyers and chocolatiers in Europe for 20% more than it sold its unprocessed cocoa beans, says factory owner Hamza Hashim, who is the CEO of Capital Foods Limited. While the opening represents a small victory in the continent's fight to profit from its natural resources instead of exporting raw materials to industrialized nations, because that is really where the problem lies, the processing plant is also about helping local cocoa farmers release the potential of their land, their crops and skills. And that is really what Hashim says. It's more about the impact on farmers and how it will change their lives. Lots of things have been going on, and these are high numbers, to summarize the impact and how much cocoa beans has been exported. But at the end of the day, the true money that is generated from it really is, small. Cocoa beans are Liberia's country's biggest fifth biggest export, with the bulk of their cocoa destined for the Netherlands, Belgium, United States, Italy, and Malaysia. The next steps will be manufacturing chocolate in the country for the first time. And also, they talk about plans to upgrade the factory to produce chocolate, butter, and powder within 2022, and are looking to expand the export market to North America and the Middle East. Well, we are definitely keeping an eye on that. The thing is also, and those are some of the discussions that we have relating to the cocoa crisis. It's an ongoing battle with big chocolate companies who they accuse of denying farmers a dignified existence by trying to avoid a newly introduced minimum price of $400 per ton for cocoa. So that is really the ongoing discussion. The premium was introduced in July 2020 by Ghana and Cote d'Ivoire. So finally, two heavyweights in cocoa production joining forces and saying, you know what, we are just going to do something about this and ensuring that, we get our money, because they produce more than 60% of the world's cocoa in a bid to curb farmer poverty, which I think is a good start, for Africa to really understanding what it means to just be selling your things for prices and, eventually just getting a small part of the share. Africa have done it with human resource. Africa has done it with so many. It's time to learn, A lot of this has been documented. The ongoing price feud has triggered an intense and complex wrangling between chocolate giants and West African governments that is playing out like a Netflix series as opposed to a Hollywood film with an ending, says Anthony Fountain, the managing director of Voice Network. But clearly, in the end, without higher prices, cocoa will never be sustainable. So we're going to have to find a way out of it. And the fact that the Ivorians and the Ghanaians are coming together to get higher prices for the farmers are good first step. But it needs to go farther. That's really where it needs to be going. All right. So this is really to summarize that, the cocoa factory, the expectations, the industry, and so much more. Before we're going to talk about the CEO who got slapped, let's talk about, one thing is that young Ghanaians in Europe travel home a lot, and why their mobility really matters. We will have in this conversation next week. I think this is a good one to have with Donnie and to really highlight the impact of a lot of Ghanaians traveling home, getting to know Ghana in another way, young people, various experiences traveling to Ghana, going from rural to urban places, visiting relatives, friends, and feeling out of place, but at the same time right at home. These are all conversations that I would really, really love to, highlight when Donnie comes and we get to talk about this. Let's listen to some music, and then we're going to come back to talk about Africa's 10 current currencies with the highest exchange rate against the dollar in 2021. And also we're going to find out about this CEO who hires a woman to slap him every time he goes on Facebook. What a wonderful job that would be. I mean, think about, just getting money out of slapping somebody. Hey, Asemo. Let's listen to Nyako with her record called Fake Love. We'll be right back.
Yeah. Razoo got that sauce in it. Fire. Is Nyako vibes. Ik ben in love voor de show. Ik moet blijven posten voor de gram koppelgoals. Ik schets de perfect guy, in het echt is hij niet zo. Ik zeg ze, he is mij, maar hij is ook van dem hoofd. Houdt hij van mij? I don't know. Hij zegt me follow, maar hij houdt meer van zijn dood. S'avonds laat go met zijn homies pan road. Ik moet die junta klemmen, maar die junta was zo hoog. Hij heeft de leren kennen in de club. Dat dezelfde type chick, alleen is hij een beetje jong. Hij maakt de dingen wijs, hij zegt er single en sprong. Ze vindt die dingen leuk, want zij is wel en fun, yeah. Ik ben in love voor de show. Ik moet blijven posten voor de gram couple goals. Het is niet wat het lijkt, altijd him en his hoes. Again and again, maar ik wil dit no more. Nee, ik wil dit no more. Nee, ik wil dit no more. Geluk is ver te zoeken. Ben met mijn girls, laat het lijken dat ik goed zit. Ik kan het ze niet zeggen, want ik weet niet wat will happen. Ik kan niet met gezeik, want heb een baby, kan niet stressen. Dus ik zet mijn big girl panties on. Ze vragen me what's good met je baby daddy. Ik zag hem met de angst. Ga je hem nog skippen of blijf je bij die man? Ik zeg zo don't worry about the girl, she's gone. Ik heb het al geregeld, girl, you know I get it done. Ik ben aan het genieten, maar ik fake tot het dood. Ik post mijn baby bump voor de likes, voor de show. Yeah.
Caught up in his road, yeah, boy. Ik was so in love, yeah. Ik was so in love, yeah, yeah, yeah. Caught up in his road, yeah, boy. Ik was so in love, yeah. Ik was so in love, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ik heb het gehad, ik ben het zat. Op de gram nog blij, maar in real life is het fuck. Het spijt me zo, laat me niet gaan, ik wil je bak. But he belongs to the streets, bij them hoes en them rats. Excuses aanvaard, dat was mijn grootste no-go. Hij deed het opnieuw 6 times in a row. Ik voel me net een daf zonder hoofd. Ik wil vrij zijn, maar ik ben locked in zijn soul. Oh, so in love for the show. Ik moet blijven posten voor de gram, couple goals. Ik schets de perfect guy in het tegen zijn niet zo. Ik zeg ze, he is mij, maar hij is ook van hem hoes.
Ik ben in love for the show. Ik moet blijven posten voor de gram, couple goals. Het is niet wat het lijkt, altijd hem en his hoes. Again and again, maar ik wil dit no more. Nee, 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 ik wil dit no more.
Why you do me so? Oh, you man, why you do me so? I know the way to do you, why you do me so? What else? Oh, you man, why you do me so? What else? I figure say we're doing this together. I thought we were gonna be forever. Not me home yet, but I was trying to make it better. Sika 7 mile, GB be from it up with Stella. I guess I didn't get the memo. Minim sissy in the bank, you sign it emo. You always wanna make me feel like me your pemo. The shit once I'm recording my first demo. 2007, I'm a falling my work I would dream. And you think you're now it's like a dream. Obey baby cry, this is too extreme. Anyway, guess how many people go stream? Cause a lot of niggas know exactly what I'm talking about. It might be cheating, but memory is not allowed. I swear to God, so maybe I was born faithful until the first female who suddenly broke a vow.
I feel like you can be my baby.
What else?
But you don't follow all the go. I feel like you can be my honey. But you go say I never have for your bills, yaro. I don't give up on loving. Because without you I know I'll be love. I don't give up on one thing, nobody. I don't know what I am again, I'm not living thing. No, I'm a non-living thing. Without you, I'm a non-living thing. Baby, I don't exist. I don't exist without you. I'm a non-living thing.
Beginning, I thought I was tripping. But I mean, him said the time is ticking. And I could see that something was missing. Me my woolly Betty, I never kept you in the kitchen. Superwoman, and I believed in your vision. What else? Can't bring me home, but I was wishing. Say me yeah, because when I talk, you know they listen. Many bema, but you took over position. Sake of allergy, the pain, I'm so with Jamie block. We moon I be see then a boy in your fraud. About the taco crime, me push it drug. Sika legitimate and as a blood. Now me free say we go right until the end. Now so all along you dey pretend. Damn, I guess I lost a friend. Thought I got it figured, there's a lot I need to learn.
Oh, man, why you do me so? I don't know what I do, why you do me so? Oh, man, why you do me so? I'ma eat it, pay me. It be like seven hard on they feel me. I dey feel it, this thing for my kidney. It dey shook me, it do for my penny. It dey pay me, yo, for my penny. I know if you do this thing, penny can me. I feel lost in my card on my penny. I don't know what I am again, I'm a non-living thing. feeling my penny, baby. Oh, yeah. Come hear me. I'm another baby.
All right, shout out to Sakuria with his collaboration with Oxlade. I am just assuming that that's Oxlade, yes, opposing it, Americanizing it, and saying Oxlade. And before that, you listened to Nyako with her record called Fake Love. Dutch, she's a Ghanaian, Dutch Ghanaian rapper based in The Hague, and you know, High Radio is a fan of hers, and we love to really, really support the movement and really get her on and all of those stuff, and really make sure that her music is out. We do that for the culture. Anyway, back to Africa on Focus. We have reached in the last couple of minutes of the show with me, your host, MS.ABA, and rounding up. We always round up with like tech news or business related news. We are about to talk about the CEO that hires a woman to slap him every time he's on Facebook. We are about to find out what kind of interesting background thing is going on there. But first, let's look at the 10 African currencies with the highest exchange rate against the dollar in 2021. Now, African currencies are not really, regarded as reliable ones. Let's just be fair. Let's just be honest. Although, we aim to be one as strong. I mean, I remember the days, when was this? This is like almost 11-12 years ago, where CD was as strong as the dollar, but that didn't really last. But hey, there is some research there is some good findings about the exchange rate that are really kind of strong in 2021. Exchange rate basically means the value of a currency when converted to another during trade. And one thing that you don't want to have is deal with the currency that is one amount tomorrow and one amount the next day. The difference between from one point to another point should be as small as possible. And what African currencies do is they do the outrageous. Some analysts painstakingly compared the currencies used in all 54 African countries and arrived at the top 10 most valuable ones among them. Do you have any ideas? Countries in Northern Africa dominate this list for now. All right, so 10 African currencies with the weakest exchange rate against the dollar was also publicized on africa.businessinsider.com, and based of the reader's response to the article, they was like, you know what, we're just going to write a follow-up, which I think is quite interesting. Giving you some background info. So there are things to know about exchange rates, right? We of course have our finance people that know all of this about it. The first thing you should know about currencies is that their values are hardly constant. It's partly due to the unexpected movements in exchange rates, which can either be favorable or not. I'm taking myself back to my economy class. According to Investopedia, exchange rates have a substantial influence on companies' operations and profitability. Exchange rate volatility affects not just multinationals and large corporations, but it also affects small and medium-sized enterprises, including those who only operate in their home country. And while understanding and managing exchange rate risk is a subject of obvious importance to business owners, investors should also be familiar with it because of the huge impact it can have on their holdings. Exchange rate basically means the value of currency when converted to another during trade. So that's really about this. The dollar, for example, is currently the most universally accepted benchmark currency because of its wide usage during international trade. And therefore, the top 10 strongest currencies in Africa are basically currencies with the highest values when converted to the dollar or any other universally accepted currency for that matter. Let's see which ones are among. All right. So ending up on number 10 is Swaziland. So although it is amongst the poorest countries on the continent, Eswatini, which is Swaziland, has one of the strongest currency. So when converted to the dollars, so 1,000 of that is about $66.62. Next one is South African rand. South Africa is one of the continent's strongest economies, and it also has one of the strongest currencies. And I'm kind of surprised that it didn't reach up at on top, but I guess it has to do with formulas. So when you convert 1,000 of that to the dollar, you get $66.63. One other thing is, and I'm kind of going into the list, number 6 is Shiseloi's rupee. So this tiny island country, which is located in the Somali Sea, has one of the strongest currencies in Africa. So 1,000 of that is converted $78.35 at the time of filing this report. We also look at number 4, Moroccan dirham. Morocco has the 4th strongest currency in Africa for now. So Africa showed, checks showed that when you convert it to the dollar, about 1,000 of their dirham becomes $110.46. Now, where do you think the Ghanaian cedi ended up? Okay, so this West African country has the 3rd highest exchange rate against the dollar in Africa, which is Ghana. When it was converted 1,000 cedis, they got out of it $164.74. That said, it's important to know that Ghana in 2007 redominated its currency such that 10,000 cedis became equivalent to 1 Ghana cedi. So the country's central bank explained that the redomination became necessary for the sake of statistical convenience. That's why you hear our grandmothers and stuff sometimes still, converting back to, 1 million, blah, 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 blah. You kind of have to calculate back what was, their money, because at the time it was, 200,000, 1 million, and all of those stuff. And that was pretty much put to death then. On number 2 is the Libyan dinar. Libya currently has the 2nd strongest and most valuable currency on the continent, second only to Tunisia. 1,000 of the Libyan dinar will give you about 219 euros and 20 cents. Number 1 is Tunisian dinar. This is currently the strongest and most valuable currency in Africa, as at the time of publication, 1,000 was converted to 353 euros and 5 cents. $353.05. So I'm mistaking. So that is to give you a very interesting overview about 10 African currencies with the highest exchange rate against the dollar. In closing, CEO hires a woman to slap him every time he's on Facebook. Elon Musk reaction. Ah, man. So Manish Sethi, the Indian American founder and CEO of wearable device company Pavlok, once hired a woman from Craigslist. He hired a woman from Craigslist. I just have to stop there because you hire a woman from Craigslist to slap him every time he opens Facebook in a move that even left Elon Musk impressed. In 2012, Mr. Sethi realized he wanted to increase his productivity. So he went to Craigslist looking for a person who would be willing to slap him every time he opened Facebook while he was supposed to be working. He hired a girl on Craigslist to slap him every time he did so. He explained in his blog, adding that the results of his experiment were astounding. According to the Pavlok CEO, he hired a woman named Kara for $8 an hour to slap him every time he strayed off task, and his productivity skyrocketed to 98%. There is a photo of, Mr. Sethi being slapped by Kara for opening Facebook, and it resurfaced, because Elon Musk shared it, And of course, he's the CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, and he responded to the picture with 2 fire emoji, which is used to signify something cool or something inspiring. And that's really what happened. Man, to raise your productivity, would you hire somebody to slap you every time you needed to raise your productivity? Okay, well, you should definitely let us know on that. On that note, we are rounding up Africa on Focus, since we had such a delightful day today. Quite of a day where, I feel like going back home because I've had such an intense weekend. Yeah, man, it's a new week. Thanking God for every new week that comes ahead. Stay safe, stay strong. Of course, you can catch up with what's it called, Africa on Focus every week on our podcast. It follows every Wednesday. Our episode follows. Next week, I am going to start to also repost our episodes on on our YouTube channel, African Focus. There are some old ones that I would really like to re-bring back so that people could have an idea of some of the wonderful guests that we have had here on the show. Follow me on all socials at MS.ABA. I am MS.ABA, your host. Next week, hopefully catching up with Donnie again. Stay blessed, stay safe, and of course, let's round up with Picture by Samini. Let's go.
Anytime you drop picture, I they see. I they on Instagram and I they watch like TV. Baby, drop more picture, I they feel. What's that imagine? What's that imagine? Make a tell them for here, make it cement. Oba, check you DM. Check you DM. Wish I been to me, no see them. Yeah, what doing the share me in the PM. Aye, now what's the day? You copy the sing code the weekend. Say, imagine the way you tell them for here, make it cement. Me love it when you slide in on me DM. Make a hot, make a wet when I see ya. So baby,